Aloha, and thank you for joining us today. I am Amy Asselby, the Executive Director of the Office of Economic Revitalization at the City and County of Honolulu. I'm really happy to be here today, and I have Sherry Minor McNamara, President and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii, joining me. She and I will be talking about our new grant program to help stabilize small businesses affected by the pandemic. I have a few housekeeping items that I wanted to share before we start. Number one, this webinar is being recorded and will be available here on our Facebook page if you want to watch it later, or you can send it to friends or colleagues who own small businesses. Number two, there will be time for questions after our presentation. So if you have a question, please drop it in the chat and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can with the time we have at the end of the webinar. This webinar is just a general overview of the program and how to apply. We'll have additional contact information at the end for specific questions about the grants. And now I'd like to introduce Sherry from the Chamber.
Thank you, Amy. Well, aloha and good afternoon, everyone who is tuned in. As Amy mentioned, my name is Sherry Minor McNamara, and I am with the Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii. First, I'd like to thank Amy and her team at the Office of Economic Revitalization, as well as Mayor Blangiardi, for providing the Chamber an opportunity to partner with the City and County of Honolulu on this very important initiative. As we know, many of our small businesses have been impacted by the effects of the pandemic. And even then, almost 3 years later, many are still climbing out of the deep hole. We recognize, and we've talked to so many small businesses, how some have taken out loans, some have used their savings, some have borrowed from friends and families, etc., just to keep their doors open, as well as your employees employed. So for those of you who are on this webinar, just wanted to thank you for your resiliency and grit and doing everything you can to keep your doors open, because you are obviously the heartbeat of our economic engine. And for our part, we want to do what we can to ensure that you can continue on that path towards recovery. So again, this would not be possible without the Office of Economic Revitalization and the hard work of Amy and her team, as well as others on this panel, including Cumulus, Ponachan Consulting, as well as our Chamber team. So I'm going to just give you a brief overview of what the grant is all about and some of the parameters, and then we have our team on this panel discussion to provide more in detail, as well as answer questions. The grants will be distributed ranging from $15,000 to $50,000, depending on the size of business. Applications will be accepted on January 30th, giving businesses time to gather the tax and financial records needed to apply. So this part is very important. Completed applications will be funded on a first come, first served basis until grant funds are exhausted, and no application is guaranteed funding. We have partnered with over 30 ethnic chambers and partner organizations to help spread the word. But if you could do that as also, please do, so that we can collaboratively support one another, help one another, and move forward together. Who can qualify? Small Oahu small businesses, because it is a City and County of Honolulu grant. So this is for Oahu small businesses that have endured 25% drop in revenue or more during the COVID-19 pandemic. A business that has gross revenue between $75,000 and $5 million in 2019, based on tax and financial documents, and at least one owner is a Hawaii resident, and the applicant's business must be operating on Oahu. We encourage all businesses to apply, including women-owned businesses, minorities, veterans, and those from the LGBTQ community. Again, this is just a general overview of what the criteria is, what's required in order to make your chances and likelihood higher. But I will now turn it over to the experts and who's been working very hard on making this grant happen. So again, thank you to all of you for tuning in, and the Chamber of Commerce Hawaii is here for you, and we'll support you in any way we can. Mahalo.
Thank you, Sherry. Thanks so much for joining us, for committing your team to this work, and for starting with a general overview. So I'm going to get into a little bit more of the details, but I wanted just to let everyone know that the Office of Economic Revitalization, our work here is as one of the city's newest offices. We were organized less than 2 years ago to provide leadership, information, and resources for Oahu's economic revitalization. We're focused on planting the seeds for a post-COVID economy that is more diverse, equitable, and provides great jobs for our people. Next slide, please. Our work is guided by this three-part strategy. First, to preserve good jobs through business relief funds, specifically Oahu Business Recovery. As well, we want to help employees build their skills to improve and move up the scale in the jobs that they're in. Secondly, we want to help create good jobs through technical assistance for businesses, nonprofits, and farmers, and fund programs for entrepreneurs and invest in key economic sectors. Thirdly, we want to help people get a good job by supporting individuals to get back on their feet, train them for good jobs, help with job placement, and offer ongoing skill building for entrepreneurs. So today, we're excited to be sharing this opportunity to preserve good jobs by providing information on what businesses need to know to apply for the Oahu Business Recovery Grant. This $10 million grant program is funded by the city and will be administered, as Sherry has mentioned, by the Chamber and their team. This is an economic stabilization program for Oahu's small businesses that have endured at least a 25% loss of income or more during the pandemic. Next slide. The program will accept 400 online applications from small businesses through revitalizeoahu.org/Oahu Biz Grant. This is starting on Monday, January 30th, 2023 at 8 a.m. So while we're announcing the program today, it won't be until Monday, January 30th at 8 a.m. that the application portal will open to begin receiving applications. Grants will range, as Sherry had mentioned, from $15,000 to $50,000. This depends on the size of the business and on the revenue loss as determined by a business's net income in 2020 and 2021 compared to net income reported in 2019. So completed applications will be funded on a first come, first served basis until all the grant funds are exhausted. Again, as was mentioned, no application is guaranteed funding. We're super excited to be working with the Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii on this program, and the Chamber, as you'll hear further from Brandon, will be managing the applications and awarding grants to eligible businesses. Next slide, please. We are very grateful to these partners at the Chamber and that they're working with ethnic chambers and other small business organizations to provide more information and help small businesses from underserved communities. The Chamber is also going to have applications available in Hawaiian, Japanese, Korean, Mandarin, Vietnamese, Tagalog, and Spanish. This will make the grants accessible to a wider range of local businesses. One of the top questions that we're hearing already is, how do I know if I'm eligible? There's a complete list of eligibility criteria on the application website, but to help you right now, here is a summary of what kind of businesses can qualify. First, a business must be independently owned, defined as having no more than 500 employees and having been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. At least one owner is a Hawaii resident, and the applicant's business must be operating on Oahu. When the application is submitted, the small business must be registered and in good standing with the Hawaii Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. Additionally, The applicant must be current in its filing and payments of all federal, Hawaii, and city taxes. And finally, a good reminder is that only one application is allowed per small business. So this includes and covers all DBAs that are under the same taxpayer identification number or social security number where applicable. Next slide, please. So, as a reminder, before you apply, make sure that you have proper documentation to establish your eligibility. We're announcing this today on the 11th. We hope you're able to watch this webinar before the 30th and get all your documents together in time, because you must show proof of at least 25% loss of net income between 2020 and 2019, as well as 2021 and 2019. So the key to a successful application is to have all the necessary tax documents, etc., get all that available and have it together before you apply. We really encourage you to go look at the application website now so you can review all the documentation you need. Remember, completed applications are going to be funded on a first come, first served basis. So no application is guaranteed funding as we work our way through the applications. Next slide. Reflecting on the purpose of these grants, being able to more equitably distribute these grant funds, we wanted to emphasize that the grant sizes are going to be determined based on the small businesses' 2019 gross revenue. The business revenue tiers that you can see on this slide take into consideration other federal, state, and local grants that businesses may have received. These tiers also help the city to make sure that we can serve the small businesses that didn't have access to previous COVID relief grants. So I hope this has been helpful. And now I'd like to turn it over to Brandon Asuncion, who is working with the Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii to provide this grant opportunity to businesses.
Thank you, Amy. Let me take a moment to share my screen. Okay, so as Amy mentioned, my name is Brandon Asuncion. I am with Cumulus Advisors, who is partnering with the City and County of Honolulu, as well as the Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii. And we're helping to administer the grant. So what I'll be doing today is just going through the grant application, which will be released on Monday, January 30th at 8 a.m. And we'll go through just the different eligibility items and whatnot that you should be getting ready to prepare for before launching the program. So there's multiple sections within the application. The first section is the eligibility, just making sure that any applicant or business that's applying to this program does operate within the City and County of Honolulu. The next question is where we're going to be asking the business, what is your principal business activity? And for the business to also describe how you've been negatively affected by the pandemic and describing what exactly are those state or emergency orders in relation to the pandemic. The next question is where you're actually going to go in and select which emergency orders and proclamations do apply to your business. It's a long, lengthy list, but you can go down at the bottom and there's directions and instructions on the bottom that will guide you to a link. And from this link, it'll take you into the details of each proclamation. If you believe majority may apply to you or all of them, or actually if all of them do, then you would select all of the above at the top. But the main thing here is that you select at least one in order to qualify for the program. The second section is the general business and contact information. So this would be the business name registered with the DCCA. And we'll be asking for supporting documents along with the application. So for this question, you'll be uploading your DCCA business registration. If you're not sure how to locate it, there's also a link down at the bottom to search for your company. There's also different tiers that will break out depending on what your answers to the questions are. So if you are the business owner, you would select yes, and there's different options here. If you're not the business owner, there's also other options asking for your title, your position, general contact information. The main thing here is that we want someone who is able to answer these questions to the best of their ability, but ultimately is the business owner and the business who's going to be responsible for providing this information. We'll also be asking for the Hawaii state driver's license or your state ID to upload that file. Another important thing to note here, for any uploaded files, there are acceptable file formats. So depending on what the questions are, there's specific formats that are available. And then going into the other general business information contacts. So phone number, email address, the physical business address, and then moving on to the next section, it'll be in asking for the financial or tax information. So this is where you'll probably be gathering a lot of the tax documentation. So your federal tax ID number or TIN number, your GET number specific to the state of Hawaii, the NAICS code, which is also listed on your business tax returns. And as part of qualification for the program, if you are awarded grant funds from the program, we're asking if you're willing to accept the form via email. If yes, provide your email. If no, what is your mailing address? Another criteria for eligibility is the number of employees. So you must have less than 500 employees, less than or equal to 500 employees to qualify for this program. So stating the number here and uploading documentation, whether it's the 2019 last quarter Form 941, which shows the number of employees, or an attestation if you do use a professional employer organization or employment organization, PEO. And if you have no employees, you would upload an attestation stating that you do not have any employees to qualify. Also be asking for your W-9, which provides your tax ID number. And then going into the DCCA, Certificate of Good Standing. It can't be over 60 days old, so we do want current certificates here, as well as for the federal and Hawaii tax clearances, it must be current. And if you're not sure where yours are, there's links below there too that you can navigate to. Once again, the business does have to, oh, sorry, this is a different one. If the business does own real property in the city and county of Honolulu, then you select yes, and you must be current on those taxes, which would be real property tax payments, and upload documentation here. If you're not, then you can skip on to the next question. And then going into the calculation of your net income. So we're asking for your filed federal and state 2019, 2020, and 2021 income tax returns with full supporting schedules, not just the tax forms alone. And then there is also a net income calculation form that will be located in the Q&A. There will be a link down here that will you'll be able to click on. It will take you to the form to download, complete, and then upload here. And this will, you can use this to calculate whether or not you do qualify for the program based on a 25% net income drop between 2019 and 2020 and 2019 and 2021. And to calculate net income, we have instructions on the bottom here, depending on what type of business you are. If you're a sole proprietorship, a partnership, S-corp, corporation or whatnot, there's different lines that you can point to help you with the calculation. And then depending what type of federal, state, or local programs and Grant CARES Act funds you did receive, we're asking for documentation here to upload that. And number 24, what was your gross revenue for 2019? So this is to determine how much grant size you are eligible for, if you are eligible. And then we're also asking to upload a copy of your filed annual GET return, which is the Form G49. And if you are, if it is applicable to your business, Form G75 for all 3 years, 2019 through 2021. And then lastly, uploading a copy of your signed form 4506T. This is to allow us to request a tax return transcript from the IRS if we need to. And again, the link is on the bottom if you need that copy of that form. The last section prior to submitting the application is the attestation. So going through all of the eligibility criteria, which is basically covered through here and what Amy went through earlier. All of these boxes need to be checked off and selected to make sure you are eligible. By checking each one, you're attesting that you are responsible for these items, and you would sign here with your name, title and position, the date you're submitting, and then click submit. Once the application has been submitted, it will go to our team for review and processing. And if you are eligible and you do qualify, our team will reach out for additional financial information for payment. And that's all for the application. You want to queue it back up to the presentation? Okay, so just a couple more info, more help. So the Chamber of Commerce of Hawaii is hosting a call center. They're open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Except holidays. So just a note, Monday is Martin Luther King Day, so they will be closed. But otherwise, they will be open Monday through Fridays. If you have questions about the grant, you can also email oahubizgrant@cochhawaii.org. And we'll also be hosting 2 more webinars, one on the 19th at 1:30 p.m. and then another one on the 25th at 7 p.m. just to cover different hours throughout the day. And some key takeaways for the program. So visit revitalizeoahu.org/OahuBizGrant to get more information about the grant. Again, the application is not available yet, but the information that you need to start gathering your documents before applying is available. So we encourage everybody to visit there. And the application will open again on Monday, January 30th at 8 a.m. Applications will be processed on a first come, first served basis, and no application is guaranteed funding. Now moving on to Q&A.
Yeah, I see there's a lot of questions in the chat already, but first question might be for the city and county, I think. Hold on. Can childcare providers apply? They may not make more than less than 75,000. Sorry, they might not make 75,000. I think you're on mute, Constancio.
Yeah, thank you, Stacy. Good afternoon. So I think the question, Stacy, is businesses that do not have 75,000 in revenue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we actually looked into that. You know, the entire program was really in collaboration with a lot of the industries and the businesses that would have been impacted, that were impacted by COVID. And we looked at, you know, what would be that range, right? And we came up with 75,000 to 5 million, really because of the businesses that did not initially qualify for any of the grants that were available. It was also indicated that based on those studies and in cooperation with industries, that 75,000 is kind of like the revenue for a business that is like the main source of income for these small business owners. Right? So anything below that are technically like part-time or like side hustle or gig jobs. So that's why that did not qualify, and the minimum was set at 75,000. Hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you, Constancio. I'll move on to the next one. I think a lot of these are going to be for Brandon. But first one is the application that I saw on your website, the application that, or will there be a fillable version available on the 30th?
Yeah, so the application that we went through today is going to be the application. There may be small modifications to it when it is released on the 30th, but it is not available yet until 8 a.m. on January 30th to the public.
Thank you. And the next 2 questions are kind of related, so I'll just ask them together. Is that calendar year or applying business's fiscal year? And what if your tax year is not the same as a calendar year?
So all businesses should be reporting their tax information, whether it's for the net income calculation or for the grant size revenue. It should be based on your fiscal year. So if you're a mid-year fiscal year-end business, you would use your fiscal year-end tax returns.
Next question, are both 2020 and 2021 have to meet the 25% reduction?
Yes, both years need to meet the 25% reduction in order to qualify.
Another one, do you require all pages of the tax returns?
As much as possible, if you do have the full tax return, it is better to provide more information than less. It'll help with just the efficiency of going through the applications if we don't have to go back and forth with the business or the applicant.
The taxpayer had a $5,000 loss for 2019. Therefore, the taxpayer would not be eligible for the grant. Is that correct?
No, not necessarily. So it's the comparison between years. So if you had a loss of 5,000 in 2019, but you had a more significant loss over 25% in 2020 and again in 2021, then you would qualify. So what would help is the net income calculation form that's available on the FAQs. You can start putting in that information. I would start to gather the documents, and it would help streamline the process and help understand if you are eligible.
Next one might be for Constancio. Can we please have the website for all of the different proclamations that our business would apply to?
The question, Stacey, is do we need to identify the
I think
emergency order?
they're just asking for the website, but you might want to answer that question as well.
Oh, yes. So in the application, I think Brandon shared the list of the emergency orders and proclamations. We can also share with you the site or the link to the site where you can view all of those emergency orders and proclamations.
Okay, next question is the Form 941 just the fourth quarter?
The fourth quarter is fine, just to show that you had less than 500 employees at the end of 2019.
And next question, can we exclude PPP grants to calculate net income?
So the net income calculation form will help drive that calculation, but when you do calculate the net income, it is considered an adjustment. So it is considered federal funds that is non-taxable on your tax forms. So it wouldn't be included in your net income as a business. So you would go ahead and add it back into your net income.
Next question, what about businesses who use a PEO? Thus, the 941 will be for the PEO. Will a letter from the PEO qualify?
Yes, a letter from the PEO will qualify as well.
The next one is kind of related to the earlier one, but our tax return is about 300 pages in a 30 megabyte file. Will this be okay to upload? So it might be more the size issue and whether the website can allow it.
I need to double check and see what the max is. If it doesn't, we might be able to break it down into 2 pieces and then upload it into another section.
For partnerships, do you need Schedule K1 or just 1065 or N20 and attachments? And I can take that one because I have a little bit more information. I mean, just more background on the taxes. But for the partnerships, the K1 actually is a part of the 1065 that was filed, so I would try to include everything. We're not asking for the N20 right now. That's not none of the Hawaii tax returns, just the IRS ones that were filed. So the complete 1065 if possible. And then the next one is, where can we access applications in different languages? This Brandon, Constancio, do you guys know?
Constancio or Pono, do you know where they would access the applications in different languages?
So they can go onto the website. And then if they go to the apply page, it has both the applications in English and the translated language, as well as the net income calculation forms. And just going back to the first question that Brandon got, what Brandon showed you is the submittable application where you'll have to create an account, and that's where the online portal to apply will be opened on the 30th. But the PDF version of the application is available, so you can start to think of what you need and whatever you need to fill out. And again, that's OahuBiz, B-I-Z, grant.org.
Next question, do we enter grants previously received under our fiscal year if different from calendar year?
You would match any grants received during the fiscal year. So consistent with the net income that you're reporting, it would all be aligned to your fiscal year end.
The next question is a 5 million based on revenue or net income?
5 million, that's for the grant size, I believe. That should be based on revenue.
Next, what if you only lost revenue in 2021?
If you only lost revenue in 1 year, you need to qualify in 2020 and 2021 for the net income drop. So unfortunately, that wouldn't be that business wouldn't be qualified.
I'm not quite sure. I think you just answered this. I'm just going to read it. Do prior grants, the PPP, SBRF, add to qualifying years 2020 and 2021?
Is it an adjustment? Is that what the question is?
I think so. And what year? So I would say for those grants, to add it back, it is an adjustment, and you would add it back in the year that you received it.
Mm-hmm. So I know we're coming up against time. I think we're 2 minutes over. Is everyone okay? How many other questions do we have?
We have quite a few other questions. Do we want to keep on going? I can just keep on going, I guess, and somebody can chime in if we need to cut it off. What if the next question, what if we do not qualify for 2020 because we received help from the CARES Act? And that might be more of a Constancio question because that's eligibility. Do you want me to repeat that?
Can you repeat?
Sure. What if we do not qualify in 2020 because we received help from the CARES Act? The PPP or any of the add backs?
Yeah, I'll have to check on that.
Next question, I'm not sure if we know the answer to this, but if the business is on a payment plan to pay prior year taxes, does this qualify as being current on the taxes? We know. I think we're probably going to have to get back on that one as well. Next question, I think it's just a repeat. Is the eligibility based on gross revenue in 2019, not net?
So the grant sizing, right, is based on gross revenue. And that's the 5 million cap down to, I think 75,000 through 5 million is based on gross revenue. The calculation for net income, the 25% loss between years, that's the for eligibility as well, but that's the net income calculation. So separate between net income and revenue.
Okay, so next question, just want to confirm that PPP and SVOG, the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, does that need to be included in net income?
Yes, so these ones would be adjustments to add back into your net income figure.
And next one, is there a attestation form to submit if your business has no employees, and where can we find this?
That'll be the form. There'll be a form on the application itself. There'll be a link to download, and then you just re-upload it.
And then I'm just gonna have one more question. Is this grant exclusively for-profit businesses, or may nonprofits apply? So I know the answer to that. It is just for-profit businesses. There's other, I do know there are other grants available for nonprofits that the city is administering. So for nonprofits, I think they can look to the city's website. And I think that's it. Does anyone else want to say anything in closing?
Sure, I can jump back on. Thank you so much, Stacy, Brandon, and Constancio for helping to answer all those questions. Every single one of those questions we will, include in the FAQs on the website. So just give us a short time to update the frequently asked questions, and we'll make sure that you have clear and concise written responses on the website. Hopefully, you feel that the verbal response answered your question. But again, if you want to check, if you want to review your documents, please go to the website. I think it helps to review again and again as you put your documentation together. If we could show the key telephone numbers, if you could post that again, Patrick, and website links one last time before we go, that would be super helpful. And we can leave everyone with that. We really appreciate your participation in the webinar. We hope we were able to get to your questions today. If we didn't, please again, check the website, look for the FAQs, review the eligibility criteria, and please reach out if you need some extra help. Aloha.